Hello guys and welcome to another episode on this Cummins-swapped Land Rover build series. Now this week we make further progress getting the engine prepped and ready to build back up, and we find a few more little problems. So my first task was to attack the pesky stuck manifold bolts. Now I began by trying to heat them and wind them out with a pair of grips. I then tried welding nuts on again and winding them out that way. And then I gave up and drilled them out with a reverse drill bit and inserted some thread repair helicoils. So what I'm doing now is getting the engine prepared for paint. So there's a few more bits that got to come off. We're going to take the injector pump off. Already got all the fuel lines off. And then I'm going to bung up these holes. So I'm going to make a blank plate for that one. I've got a blank plate for there. We'll put the lift pump back on. We will also start putting bits like the water pump back on. I've been around this side working on repairing our stuck-in manifold studs. Unfortunately, I've snapped my tap, so I'm going to have to finish that off at a later date. But essentially, I need to get it all sealed up and everything on that we want to paint. And then I can strip the rust and paint off the engine. And then we can set to making it look nice and shiny. So to make a block-off plate for the old filler tube, I've cut the old filler tube down, so I've just got this flange and a bit of pipe, and then I've made a little plate up to go over the end of it. I wanted to keep this because it's still got an O-ring seal in it instead of making up a plate and just RTVing it on. So now what I'm going to do is just MIG weld around there, and then we'll clean it all up and bolt that onto the block. So we've got the timing cover off the front of the engine because we're preparing to take the fuel pump off. Now, if you've never seen inside one of these engines before, as you'll notice, timing gears, not chains. So you never have to worry about changing your timing chain out. That's a nice feature. But this is the pump gear here. So what we've got to do now is get the engine at top dead center. And then we can undo the pump gear and we can undo the bolts holding the pump on. And that will allow us to slide the pump off the back. Now, to be honest, as this pump's coming off and going straight back on, well, straight back on-ish, you don't necessarily have to get it to top dead center. You could just take it off and put it back on exactly as it came out, but there's a slight risk there that if you turn anything or, if you accidentally turn the pump over with it off, you could mess up the timing and then it's just a bit more of a pain in future. So let's get that sorted now and we can get on with the rest of the job. So I've got number one rocker cover off because we're going to use the intake and exhaust rockers to help us find top dead center. So we're going to spin the engine over till we see the intake rocker, which is this one, go down, then back up. Then we'll wait for the exhaust rocker to do the same. After the exhaust valve has gone down and then back up, we then rotate the engine another 90 degrees. And we should be able to insert this little timing pin here, which will slide into the cam gear, and that will lock the engine at top dead center, assuming that hasn't seized up. So the exhaust valve is now on its way down. Good. See that moving there, that rocker. We'll wait for that to come back up. Nearly back up. So what I've ended up doing is just taking this locking pin out. This is the camshaft locking pin, and I've spun the engine over. I couldn't quite find the hole, which isn't the first for me. So as I've spun the engine over, you can now see that hole has appeared in the back of the cam gear. That's the little spot where the tool goes. So hopefully we can slide that in there, and that is gonna, we might give that a little clean up first, but we're gonna slide that in there, and that's gonna lock our camshaft gear in place. Then we can take the pump off. Oh yeah. Piece of piss. Now there's probably some sort of fancy gear puller thing that if you're a Cummins specialist you'd have. No, I'm not a Cummins specialist and I don't have one. So what I've got here is 2 of the timing case bolts, as there are 2 threaded holes all the way through this gear. So what I'm hoping is I can wind the... Oh, I'm going to run out of thread on that, aren't I? Oh, maybe not. Might just make it. Oh, I'm definitely going to need a longer bolt. I need more thread. But in theory, we should be able to wind that. There we go. There we go. Oh, just enough, I reckon. Yeah, and that will push the gear off that shaft. Nice. See if that was enough. I'm hoping that was enough. I reckon it was enough. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Winning. That's all right. Nice. Beautiful. We shall now remove the ring of bolts. Oh, that's already loose, that one. We'll now remove the ring of nuts, that holds the pump to the timing case. And then said pump will be free. Set me free, dear love. My singing's so bad I'm probably going to be a victim of the hate crime, to be honest. Could be anything. Multiple reasons why I'd be a victim of the hate crime. You've got 2 ways of timing these pumps as well, or 2 ways of adjusting the timing. So you've got that gear we've just taken off. So you can obviously, where that gear is in relation to the other gears sets the pump timing. But the front of the pump's also on slots. So for sort of fine adjustment of timing, you can swing the pump a few degrees either way, which helps with a bit of fine tuning. Right, that is the pump off. Another rather crusty thing. Crusty bugger. I then whipped out my wire wheel and my needle gun and started undressing the old girl. So we're getting relatively close to where we want to be with this side of the engine with regards to cleanliness before we paint it. But what you will notice here is that as we've cleaned the rust off one of these core plugs, this one's actually rotten through, which is a real nice feature. It's quite lucky we sort of cleaned that up, because that wouldn't have lasted a lot longer in the car, I don't think. So when we paint this engine and put it all back together, we'll put a new set of core plugs in it. That'll make it a little bit more reliable. So I've now moved the engine over and I've got it up on the chain hoist here, because I don't trust that little Chinese engine crane. What I'm going to be doing now is taking the sump off, because as I mentioned before, we need to rotate this round so the bowl is at the back. When that's off, that'll allow me to clean it up off the engine, which means I don't have to work underneath the engine or flip the engine on its head, which is rather tricky when you've got half a ton of American muscle. So let's whip that off, get the sump cleaned up, get the new oil pickup pipe on, and we'll carry on prepping it for paint. Whoop. Oh yeah. Donk. there we go, that's the sump off. There it is down there on the floor. And if we look up in here, look how clean it is. Amazing, isn't it? You can have an engine that's literally rotting outside, and yet inside looks brand new. I think all of that's probably like 30 years old, if not more. But anyway, that is the current oil pickup. As you can see, dips down straight into the bowl of that sump. So when we spin that through 180 degrees, we want that piece back there, which is where this bit comes in. So we need to take this one off, bolt this one up in its place. Nice little gasket to go there because it's sucked up into the oil pump. So if you don't have a good seal there, it's only going to suck air in and destroy your engine. But yeah, we're going to do that, and then we'll get this gasket face all cleaned up and the sump put back on. Having said that, I was just looking around the gasket face of this sump, and you can see where it started to rot. Now this is the bad side. And as you can see, that has rotted through. So all that's left to seal it is that tiny little edge there. Think we might be needing a new sump here, because that is not going to seal for much longer. And we'll have all sorts of troubles. So I've just cleaned some of the nastiness off this sump and found a bit more nastiness. I'm not quite sure what's gone on here, but there seems to be a little bit of epoxy at that. Nice bit there too. Very nice. But what I'm going to do is, instead of flipping the sump round now, I'm actually going to leave it this way round with this nasty old sump on it. We're going to have to get a new sump, but we'll leave this sump on it for now, because with the bowl at this end, that will allow me to get in there and clean all that and paint all that. So this will be kind of helpful, and then the new sump we'll paint separately along with these other bits that we've got here. So I've just cleaned the turbo housing up. We've got this bottom water inlet. So I've cleaned the timing case back up. So I cleaned all the paint and rust off the timing case. That's now back loosely on the engine. We'll paint that with the engine. That's obviously going to have to come back off when we put the sump on. But yeah, I need to get the engine sealed back up so that I can then clean off this side. And then we won't be far off painting it. I need to get in here and clean up the front of this, but I didn't want to do that with the timing gear all exposed. But we are getting there. Slowly but surely we are getting there. Right guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. A bit of backwards and forwards. We are progressing, but as with all these things, it's never quite a smooth run. So I'm now waiting for a few more parts. I'm going to wait for the sump and the freeze plugs to arrive, so we can put those bits on the engine. I'm going to carry on and clean up the other side of the engine, and then when all the new bits are on, the non-rusty bits, and the rest of the engine is degreased and derusted, we will get to painting it. So next time you see it, hopefully we'll have it painted, or we'll be painting it next time you see it, and then we can get on to some more interesting stuff and build it up and hopefully fire it up for the first time. Definitely not the first time. First time I fired it up, I reckon.